Hey everyone, time for Geocache Talk. Whether you're at work, in the car, wherever you are, we hope you enjoy the show. Please give it a like and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, and now Spotify. You can get all the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. Big thanks to the Trail Bugs for the music, our patrons, Demon Hunter 2, Aggie Jedi Master, Electric Water Boy, Antaeus, Joshua, the geocaching vlogger, Nick at Cashley, One Kind Word, Ravenclaw Tia, Shermanator 18, Butterfly Girl, Loon Trackers, the Aussie Geocacher, Sodak Zach, who just got back from Moga, and he's got himself a win there. Oh, I like what Jesse's doing during this part. You have to see it. If you're listening, you have to go watch it because it's pretty funny. The Deadliest Cachers, Terrell 2, Neil Moore, Molly the Geocaching Dog, Team D&D, Geocaching Adam, Peachy 1276, the No Code Geocachers, Curiosity Girl, Tick Magnet, Marsipanic, Bricker John, Firesafe, FS Sabero, Geo Rick, Cache Addict Mel, Geocaching Janji, the Geocaching Junkie, Sir Drumalot, Janice, Tricassius, Tom Frey, Rugels, the Bruce Zero, EGK PBR, Casamaya, Master Sergeant USMC, Little Gears, Albedo 0.39, It's Only Barney, Purple Turtles 3, ACDC Family, and our new patrons, None of It Tidy, AFK Geocaching, and Josh Boggs. If you'd like to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/geocache talk for more details. Patrons get path tags, coins, other geocaching swag during the year, as well as invites to special events only for patrons. Support levels start at as little as $3 a month. Well, let me introduce to you my co-host, Jesse, aka Memphis Mafia, who seems to be reading something right now.
Oh, sorry.
Jesse, what are you perusing?
My favorite geocaching magazine.
Well, what are you reading there, buddy? What is that?
The newest edition of FTF Geocacher Magazine. So,
sweet.
Totally unrelated from our show tonight, but just reading my newest copy. Just happened to come in.
You'd be awesome if we could get on the FTF Geocaching Magazine.
We're not that big yet.
We're not. Oh no, I think we are.
What?
We're gonna jump right to show 94 for April 15th. We welcome back to the show Keith Petrus. Welcome back to the show, Keith.
Thank you, Gary.
It's good to see you. We got to sit down and actually talk a little bit in Denton at the Texas Mega, and I really enjoyed that. I appreciate you take a little time to talk. My wife loved hearing. She'd heard some of the Spain stories, but it's so much fun to talk about them again. And so she really, after we were all done, she goes, "Oh man, Keith's awesome. Love hearing those stories." So
we did have a nice chat. I remember that.
That was good. And we're going to talk about a little bit of that tonight, as well as lots of other things. But let's get into some news first. And I'll get both of y'all's opinion of this. We're going to give our final thoughts on the Planetary Pursuit. We talked about it a little bit, but this week we finished up. Are you guys both space explorers, or did you get stranded on a distant planet?
I am a space explorer, so made it all the way.
Keith, how did you get?
I accidentally ended up with about 4 or 5 planetary icons. I have no idea how it happened.
That's awesome.
The souvenirs.
Right, the souvenirs. I got to Neptune and had some issues this week, and so I didn't make it any further. But we've already kind of talked. We don't want to talk a lot about this, but I think we all agree that, well, Keith didn't really get into it much, so that was kind of interesting. But I think it was kind of cool. I hope they do something again like that. It's points in geocaching is a little kind of.
I'm all for it. I think
They did a good job. I liked it, but I'm still don't know myself what I think about getting point, because I like geocaching for geocaching. I don't want it to become something else. I don't know, but anyway,
you don't want it to become my favorite word, which is competition.
Well, yeah.
I do.
There's ways to do it, I think, but I don't know. Oh well, all right.
Well, I have to say thumbs up. So
Okay,
my
me too.
final, my final judgment on it would be thumbs up. While there's always room to improve,
Right.
and I know I can be kind of critical at times of some of their promotions because some of them are lame.
Right.
This one was a good one and very improved from Mary Hyde. And I know they have to step it out because they could give away free gold like they did with winter promotions. Actually, they gave away free gold, and people would still complain, right? It's a huge audience. There's tons of people, and not everybody's going to like it. But I think they did a really good job. And some people talk about some of the loopholes and stuff like that. There's always going to be loopholes. We solve puzzles for a hobby, so we're going to find loopholes no matter what. But I think they really stepped it up. I think they made it to where people that wanted a little bit of a challenge actually had a little bit of a challenge, and you didn't just not even know what was happening and get the final souvenir. Like you actually had to get out and do a little bit to do something. You couldn't accidentally back into the whole promotion like Mary Hyde. They stepped it up. They did good. They separated the cache types, which is always interesting for people that like different stuff. And they made graded levels where everybody could participate. So I think it's a great improvement, and I hope they continue to go this direction with their souvenir promotions anyway, instead of just giving them away for everything.
Right.
So
I like it.
I say thumbs up. I think they did a good job.
Yep. All right. Give us a webcam watch.
Okay. So sadly, the webcam watch for the United States is down to 113. So we didn't get to hold steady for all summer. And the world is down to 278. However, there's we're now up to 5 disabled. So one of those, the reason why those two numbers went down is one of them's currently disabled. I looked at it, and it's a Canadian one. And apparently the webcam has been down for a little while. And the reviewer had made a note before that if it didn't come up, you're going to have to do something. And people have been doing the typical, selfies at the GZ. So it's now disabled. So if that doesn't come back up, we're going to lose one. So that's for the world. I don't know which one is down for the US right now. So we just looking at it before we came in.
Yeah.
But I think we're going down by 1 or 2 right now. So hopefully we'll get to come back up. One of those disabled ones will come back up, and we won't lose one before the summer's over.
Yep. Spring Cito is coming up. Event April. Well, you can get a souvenir that day, April 21st through 29th. This year, too late to probably get in an event, but you definitely can plan to go to an event for that. So mark that on your calendars. Go get you go do a Cito and be a part of cleaning up a park or something like that. Or
do you have one picked out? Or are you going to try to get to one?
Yeah, we might. I don't have one picked out yet, though. We'll have to look around the area. DFW, there's usually a few for sure. So
yeah, I know we have some, but I haven't picked one out yet either. So
yep. Virtuals. Where are we at?
So we're up. I think last week we were at 1309.
Yes.
And this week we're at 1327. So they're starting to climb a few now. So that's good. Out of 4,000, that's still not bad because we have, people wait till the last minute, right? You got to compare yours
almost
to everybody
there.
else.
Yeah, we're almost at the last minute, though. What we determine when in August they're going to be done by?
I believe it's August, yes.
I wonder if that'll get extended.
Actually, I kind of hope not.
I agree with you.
I think they use it as a good gauge, and I'm very happy that they did this. And at first I was like, just make virtuals or history caches, active again. But they didn't, and they made it a temporary one-time reward thing. And I really think they really thought that one through, and it's better. If they'd have just made them active again, virtuals would not be that exciting anymore.
Right.
The fact that they made them limited keeps them rare, and I think it makes them good. So I really crossing my fingers that we may see a future webcam limited release.
Oh, that'd be cool.
At some point.
Very,
very limited release.
Yeah.
Because if webcams weren't rare, they would be boring. So
Yeah, that's true. That's
Hey,
true.
stand in the middle of the street and take your picture at this intersection. No,
Turns-
that's lame.
Turns into a waymark kind of thing.
Yeah. If there wasn't like less than 115 in the United States, they'd be pretty weak. So
yeah, so it'd be very limited. And as far as virtual rewards, Keith, you're going to talk about one of those a little later in the show too, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, very cool. Well, let's get right into the various topics tonight, and the topic we want to spend a little bit of time on because I think people are interested, and I've gotten some people who are asking questions. So I don't know about the chat room, Jesse. Keep an eye on some of the questions about the hurricane. But that's how I labeled this, was how FTF Magazine survived a hurricane. And so I guess let's start by, when did you first? First, tell people, Keith, because again, we always have brand new people every week, or that are not familiar with things, old shows, are familiar with our guests. But tell people why it was important, or what was critical about Hurricane Harvey, and why it was critical to you.
Well, I live on a boat in a marina, and I turned out I lived on a boat in the marina in the direct path of this storm.
Yeah.
So I was forced to evacuate. Had to worry about the boat's condition. It was a pretty interesting situation.
Yeah, pretty incredible, because when that thing was bearing down on the coast, we have a lot of friends down there, and we knew you were down there, and it was like, oh my gosh. So was there ever a thought? Well, for people that don't know, you can't really power your boat up and take off with it, right?
Exactly. My boat has no motors. It's a floating condo.
Right. So you're not gonna be able to get it out of there. So, so your initial thought, were you going to try to ride it out unless they made you evacuate, or what are you thinking about?
Absolutely not. I would, my preference, it would have been, we would go to Oklahoma or something.
Right.
If it were for my wife being a hardcore, she's not afraid of hurricanes. So we ended up evacuating to Corpus Christi, which is only about 20 miles away.
Right. And then, so you at least you got out of the path of the storm, and
right.
So, and the boat's name's Willie.
Yep.
I love that. It's like Willie the tugboat. So you evacuated, and then of course they wouldn't let you back, right?
Exactly. Basically, we had been. We'd made a trip to Mexico, and the day before we made the trip to Mexico, we ran into an old guy, crusty old mariner type, on the docks, and he said, "Hey, there's a big storm brewing over in the Yucatan," and I had no idea what he's talking about.
Right.
So we kind of ignored that, and the next day, it was, I believe, Wednesday, we drove into Mexico, spent the day there. Actually, no, that was Thursday. By the time we got back from Mexico that evening, we were under 24-hour evacuation order.
Oh my!
So I had overnight and most of Friday I spent putting things in the boat, getting things off the deck, just trying to get it prepared for the storm, and then we were gone just like that. So
wow. It
was a real quick thing. We ended up over in Corpus Christi, and that night we weathered the storm over there. I would go outside and take video of the wind blowing the rain over the top of the houses and the trees blowing around. And it was pretty hairy over there, but not nearly what it was like here in Port Aransas, obviously.
Right.
Corpus Christi, the damage was mostly just to fences. A lot of fences knocked down everywhere. A few people lost parts of their roof, but not much. But yeah, it was an exciting night.
Oh my gosh, yes. One thing we did too during this period of time was I'd sent you a note. And it's like, "Is everything okay?" And you're like, I think he sent back a note saying, "Well, this is later on too. Once you were kind of back, or was able to get back to where the boat was, and I remember you telling me, you said, well, the boat is still attached to the dock," and I go, "Oh." My first thought was, okay. And then I think you sent the picture, and you're like, "Here's where the dock was. Here's now where the dock is. So it's incredible that it literally was, right? It was still attached to the dock.
Yeah, the day before we left, when we were preparing the boat, another larger boat, one of those tour boats that does dolphin tours, tied up on the little finger pier next to us. And it was a giant boat, and ours is a giant boat. It's a 72-ton boat, 56 feet long, metal boat. That's us, and the other boat was even larger. Mm-hmm. So what happened during the storm is the boat, just the finger pier with both boats still tied to it, broke away and floated a quarter mile away into a back lagoon. And I found out about this the next day because we didn't know what had happened. We were hearing reports. The first report we heard of Port Aransas was total devastation. And so we thought, oh no. And then we started seeing pictures posted to Facebook from the first responders that were here and some people that snuck in boats. And it was boats upside down, boats way up inland, boats in front of stores, in the middle of the street, boats and trailers, all over the place. So I was desperately trying to find, what happened to my boat. And I just happened to be looking, I think it was late Saturday, finally, I saw my boat, but there was grass in front of it.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute.
And we were at the end of the 7 dock. It was 500 feet down at the end of the 7 dock. So I was like, this boat is not where it's supposed to be.
No.
But we didn't know where it was. So then it became a kind of a detective thing, trying to look at the houses behind the boat in the photo and figure out where it was. And we didn't really know till the next day when a friend of ours came down and physically found it for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. I mean, like you said, and I know probably one of your initial thoughts was, well, it looks fairly intact. Maybe it's salvageable.
It was sitting directly straight up and down. And it looked like it was in the water from the photo. Mm-hmm. I couldn't see the water, but I could see it was so perfectly perpendicular to the ground that I thought it was possible that it was okay. And that's exactly what happened. It turned out to be sitting in the water and just fine.
Incredible. So, you were able to get back there and, get on, so I guess first thing you did is to sort of get on board before you could move it. You got on board, and what did you find once you got on board when you first got on? What did you,
there were a few things. We had these heavy duty covers over the windows. A couple of them got torn a little bit, and there a few things broke off the outside of the boat. Mm-hmm. Inside the boat, it looked just like we left it. It was messy only because we're messy people. So, nothing in beer glasses all in the cabinets, none of them broken. It was amazing.
Incredible.
This thing, it was spun around, probably going in circles across the marina and into that back cove and hit a bulkhead, and it didn't damage much of anything inside the boat. I couldn't even tell you a specific thing that got damaged.
Wow.
We did see, we did have water in the bilge area, just that blew in through the vents in the back of the boat.
Right.
So we had some water that I had to pump out, and that's what I did. Your question was, what do I do next? The boat was in this lagoon with no power, no electricity, no water, no nothing. So for a month or almost a month, I went and babysat the boat every day. I would drive in and go, and there was nothing to do but sit there on the boat and clean things up and pump water out of the bilge. So I actually did a little work on the boat while I was out there in that area as much as I could.
Right.
But yeah, it was just a waiting game until we could find someone to tow us back to the marina.
So you end up when you got it towed back, did you end up in a different anchor point than you are when you were before, or were you able to get
our original anchor point we were still tied to, but it was not where it was supposed to be.
That's true. Yeah, we're still. Yeah, so I guess you let that part go, but
we literally unhitched ourselves from the dock and left it hanging over the bulkhead.
Right, left that behind.
But one thing though, the day we moved the boat, or actually we tried to move the boat on 2 different days. The first day we had 2 friends come out with smaller boats.
Yeah,
and we untied the Willie and we and this is a 72-ton boat again. These 2 little boats were going to haul it back to the marina. Well, the Willie just started drifting with the current the two little boats just started being drugged behind the Willie, and it just took them right with it. They were trying to pull the boat, and nothing happened. And the Willie just pulled them straight across. Luckily, we ran into another bulkhead, and we tied off real quick. And I waited until we had a professional come out and do the job the next day. That's exciting.
Yeah, because golly, Keith, I mean it is incredible because, like you said, it's sturdy. I mean, it's 72 ton and it's got some weight to it. You know.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. The guy we bought it from said it would just if we ever had a hurricane, it would just cut a hole through those $1 million homes. Don't worry about it.
Right. And took care of the dock. But anyway, so Jesse, did you have anything from the hurricane part you want to?
Yeah, so the chat room has been asking questions, and of course they always like to hear your stories too. But one of the questions they have, and this may make more sense to you than it did to me, but it sounds like they have some inside knowledge. Has Port A and the Rockport area recovered?
It's done remarkably well in recovering, but it's not by any means fully recovered.
Wow.
We still don't have enough lodging. There's still places that are being knocked down and bulldozed and hauled off. But there's a surprising amount of stuff to do here in town. We have lots of restaurants that have opened up. All the little cart rental places are available. So you could come to Port A and have a very nice time right now.
Well, good.
Eating out, lots of good places to eat. The restaurant here at the marina actually relocated from its location that was damaged in the storm and is now built. They've moved the restaurant to the marina where an old restaurant used to be, and have opened up in that location. So lots to do here. It's not, but probably as far as full recovery, we're probably at 60%.
Wow. It's a cool area, by the way, Jesse, if you ever come down. It's Port Aransas and Rockport, that area is real pretty. I mean, it's just really relaxing. What I liked about it, Keith, is the fact that it's not like overproduced. So,
yeah, it's a very friendly kind of little, you'll see the locals around and just all types, and there's lots of fishing and there's a lot to do. The beach is available, and it's a nice little place to visit. And there are a lot of geocaches, the ones that didn't wash away.
So whoever the first person was that a log was wet in Port A, I think needs to be banned from geocaching.com.
That's funny.
Because come on now, people, it was a hurricane. It was a bad hurricane too. I think people realize that Hurricane Harvey. Did you?
I'm sorry. I had a bunch of geocaches hidden on the boardwalk here in town. Where the bird watchers go out and check things out.
Love that area.
I would go through town and I would look at the pieces of boardwalk that had torn loose and were littered in the middle of the town and cemetery, everything. And I'd always try to see if one of my geocaches was on one of those pieces of, of boardwalk. I never did spot one, but they all were eventually hauled to the dump, and I'll never see them again.
Oh man, to replace all that, golly.
So also in the chat room.
Yep, go ahead.
And you may have covered this previously, but how did the Geocaching magazine get started, or what was your inspiration for doing it?
The iPhone version of the geocaching app came out, and I had tried geocaching before, but unsuccessfly because I didn't have a GPS. I kind of looked at the satellite view and went and looked for something, and it didn't work. But once the app came out, I became interested in it. And then because I'm a graphic designer, I thought I would I was looking for a magazine to subscribe to about this new hobby that I was enjoying, and there wasn't one. No. So because I was a graphic designer, I thought, well, I'll combine work and pleasure, and this will be a perfect excuse for me to travel around the country and do this hobby that I'm enjoying, and also, make it part of my job. So that's what I did.
And that makes sense. And that's you get into a new hobby and you do something anyway, and you see a void and you fill it. I think that's how many successful people have done it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one more comment and one more question. So the comment is they love the stories, but they'd like to see more how-tos.
I agree.
Probably hard to do.
I agree. And for all you people that are listening who write stories all the time, that's what I'm going to start asking for more of, because that's something I've always thought the magazine needed more of. But for one reason or another, the stories seem to come in thicker and faster than the how-to articles. But I'm gonna start physically trying. Well, physically, I'm going to start making a much greater effort to get more of that type of content into the magazine.
You know, related to that, Jesse, if I could real quick,
Okay.
something that I really, and you know, because you subscribe too, but it was something, and one of our patrons, Electric Water Boy, I don't know if he's in the chat room tonight, but you know, he is okay. Well, then forget.
He has a bum.
I don't want to talk about him then if he's in the chat room.
Don't inflate his ego anymore.
No, I am going to inflate his ego because it's already like this. I'm just going to make it even larger. No, I'm kidding. So love Tom, but you know, that's one thing that I've always appreciated. I'm sure Keith, I'll let you comment on this, but Tom doing puzzle information in a sense, how-tos, really. That's what most of his stuff on is little story, but usually he gets into here's some detail you need to help you. And it's been invaluable. I've learned more from reading Tom's information, I think, than anything else.
Yeah.
As far as that.
You'll always learn something in that column.
Yeah. I do. And so, like you said, you probably want some more different kinds of things, but
I'd like to see a lot more about container building. You know, I was thinking just the other day, like, what if I asked for people to send their favorite way of making something look like a log that's not a log, you know? I mean, a physical log.
Right.
Types of camouflage beyond just spray painting leaves onto an ammo can, you know? Because I've seen some amazing caches out there. A girl who's not even really caching often much here in the local area did a fake log that just blew me away. She made it.
Right.
I don't know how she made it, but that thing was it looked like a real log, and it was a mayonnaise jar or something.
Wow, that is cool. Yeah,
that sort of thing is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
All right. So the final question, and Gary, this one's for you.
I know. I see this.
How good are you at finding Spartacus?
How good do you think I am?
You can't be worse than me.
I am. No, I am terrible. I am terrible. I don't. What my deal is, I guess is probably part of my. You know, I'm not the greatest. I think at the detail work of things. You know, and so, I'll look for a while, then I'll give up, and I just kind of, you know. Now, what's interesting though is we did have a little talk with Keith about so he gave me a little tip, which is to really kind of think about where you might put it. And then that sometimes helps, right, Keith? If you kind of think
caching advice in general.
Right. Where would you put it? I've even done that. I think we've all done that where we step back and we go, okay, I can't find the cache. Where would I put the cache? Right. Many times that's where it's at. So no, I'm terrible.
So not to make you feel bad about yourself,
but okay.
that Fedora guy from the chat room says his 11-year-old is a pro at finding them.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm just going to throw that out there for you since you're an expert geocacher.
I bet you he is probably better at finding caches than me. And I bet you that he's also can play video games a lot better than me now that I've got.
Oh, that's a no-brainer. 11-year-olds have us beat hand down in video games. Yeah. You can't even. In my defense, I want to try to make an excuse for a second. Because I'm not good at it. I never I'll get it and I'll read it, but a lot of times I like to save it up because they don't come every week, right? So I save them up.
You're like me.
My rationale for not really going heavy at finding Spartacus is, well, somebody's already found him by now, so it's not a race anymore.
Yeah,
and it's terrible, but I use it a lot because I don't want to feel bad about not finding them. Because if not, it's going to have to be a competition, and the first thing I get it, I'm going to have to try. So
like I said, we got new people all the time. So Keith, let's talk about. Here's the magazine, by the way. If people have never seen FTF Magazine, it's bi-monthly, every other month. Did I get it right? Is that
yes?
Okay, good. I got it right. in inside of each magazine, there is Spartacus, and you've got to go find where's Spartacus. See the little part right there about where's Spartacus? So tell people real quick, Keith, how in the world this whole little where's Spartacus thing started?
Back in the first year of publication, this guy, Chuck Seidlinger, up from, where is he from? I can't remember, up in Pennsylvania or something.
Right.
He had managed somehow to get into the first 4 or 5 issues, and he started talking about, hey, I'm in every issue of FTF Magazine. So I started thinking about it, and like, maybe we can make this into something. Because he did have a very unique look about him. He wore that Spartacus helmet to events, right? And of course, his caching name was Spartacus 06. So I basically gave him a phone call one day and said, "Hey, I saw you are pretty proud of being in the magazine every issue. What if we made this into a game?" And initially, I wanted him to send me photos of himself attending events or in places where he's kind of hidden,
right?
But that was just too much work to put onto him. And of course, all the photos in the magazines coming from his geographical region would be the ones he was in. So it just didn't make sense in that respect.
Right.
So instead, I had him send me a photo of himself wearing the helmet. And that's the one you see hidden in the magazine. I just Photoshop him into random places.
And you do a really great job too. Cause, and then you usually put you do, I think every time the next time you'll put like where he is. So here he is in a previous one, hidden in this little spot right here. Darn it, I missed it.
He's I try to Photoshop him in a way that makes him look like he's behind the glass.
Right,
that's pretty tricky. He's been in planes, trains, every mirror reflections on people's sunglasses.
Yes. I love the reflections. It's awesome.
So, yeah, we're terrible at that, but hopefully we won't lose our podcast because we're terrible at finding Spartacus.
No, let's hope not. All right.
So, so on a totally separate note, but my favorite part of the game, so I always get to ask about this kind of stuff. You just came back from recent travels. You went to Europe, right?
Yes, sir.
What? Tell us a little bit about why you were over there.
There's an annual event in Europe called the Bruges Beer. I used to think it was called a festival. It's not actually a festival. It's called Bruges Beer 1, Bruges Beer 2, Bruges Beer,
Right.
Any event in a series. So I've been wanting to go this thing forever because I love beer, and it's in Bruges. I love Belgium. It's where my family originated from. So I'd been wanting to attend this event forever, and I actually did attend it last year. Had a great time, had some great beer. And awesome. So this year I decided I would go back, but I would go back as a vendor. I contacted them, and their vendor fees were not very high. They set me up with a nice little booth there, and I went and had my little marketing materials printed up in the little community I was in there in Belgium, and went and set up a table and sold subscriptions to the magazine. Of course, I had to sell digital subscriptions. I gave them their first copy, but the digital copies would come later because a whole other story, the shipping problem. I don't know, I won't get into that, but anyway. I could go on and on about that. But so anyway, I set up my little booth there and spent the day marketing the magazine to these Europeans. And it was a lot of fun, but I made some mistakes. I recently did my art coins, so before I went, I did these art coins, and I would put Bruges Beerfest on them, and so I had 3 or 4 of these coins made up, and I realized I started looking at the name of the event, and first of all, they spelled Bruges B-R-U-G-S-E and not E-S like I had. Because there's about 1 million ways to spell Bruges. All the different nationalities spell it different.
Right.
So first I spelled the name wrong on the coin. Okay, that's fine. People will probably still buy them. It's still about beer and all that. So I get over there and I start doing other coins, and I do the other ones right. I put the name of the event, and I spell everything right, at least on most of them. And I sold some coins, and then had a real nice time. I get back from the event, And one of the people I know over in Europe wanted me to send him an article I did last year about attending the event. And he posted it on Facebook, and somebody from Netherlands or Belgium commented like, "Oh, that's pretty funny. He thinks that beer means beer." And I'm like, what? I started looking at it. The Bruges Beerfest, B-E-R, in Dutch is bear. So it was the Bruges Bear Festival.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Now, you can understand my confusion because they serve a lot of beer at this festival. You get little plastic tokens with a little bear on it that you trade in for they're like drink tokens, and you trade them in for these excellent Belgian beers. So not only did I for years completely misunderstand the whole purpose of this event,
right?
And I'm over there trying to do my little coins and just completely missing the whole point. But anyway, it was great fun, and I'll get it right next year.
That's funny. So it's a festival, but it's not a festival. It's got a lot of beer, but it's not about beer. And they have a weird spelling for the name, but it sounds like you had fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. It's awesome.
Crazy.
Did you get to do any geocaching while you were there?
Yeah. The in Bruges, there's a geocache in the town square, and I tried to find it the last time I visited. But it's a really nice little multi. It's you go to the town square, and you're like, where could this thing possibly be? And you walk over to a bike rack, and there's a bike with saddlebags on the back. They're like it's like a box with two sides, and you lift up the little cover, and there's locks on the box. And in the cache clue, it tells you the combination of one of the locks. So you open it up, and there's this sheet of laminated paper where you have to walk around the main square of Bruges and find these objects, and then line them up on this grid and figure out what the numbers intersect. Anyway, it was. Oh
wow, that's pretty cool.
When I first tried it, it seemed so complicated. I'm like, I'll never figure this out in the short time I'm going to be here, so I'm not even going to bother. But this time I went back, and because there was a festival in town, you know how when you're at a festival and you see a crowd of geocachers, and you just know immediately they're geocachers just by looking at them.
Right. Absolutely.
So I'm in the middle of the Bruges Square, doing my thing, looking for a place to go buy a beer somewhere.
Right.
And I see this group of geocachers over around this bike. So I go over and I start talking to them, and I'm like trying to bend their ear about exactly how long does this thing take to take? Oh, it doesn't take long at all. How long does it take to finish? And
right.
So finally, I went ahead and did the thing and logged the cache. So I was real proud of that because I didn't know that I would ever be able to get that one done.
Very cool. So I'm already jealous because travel is my favorite thing ever, even for non-beer, non-festivals. That sounds like a pretty good.
And a bonus, right?
Yeah.
Jesse? It'd be beer bonus for us. That'd be awesome.
A beer for a non-beer and festival of a non-festival. That sounds like a lot of fun. You got any other trips planned or coming up?
Yeah, I've got a trip back to, some of the people that know have read my stories in the magazine know that I walked the Camino de Santiago a couple of years ago, and I met a bunch of people on that trip. You basically make friends with people on the trail as you're hiking, and they become sort of like a second family to you because you've been through so much together when you're making this 500-mile hike.
Here's the magazine, by the way, that was on that one. So that's
my oldest friend Yarek there at the stone wall. He's finding his probably not his first geocache, but one of his first 10 geocaches, and his girlfriend's up on top of the wall looking down at us, wondering what the heck we're doing.
That was awesome, though. That's a great photo. And
so now these folks have become such good friends that we've made. Last year, I made a second trip to Europe where I stayed with one of them in the Netherlands, or visited one of them in the Netherlands. We had a wonderful time. And this year, we're going to one of the ones that we know from Spain, and we're going to visit him. And the other walkers come and visit as well, since they're closer. And while we're there, we're going to hike across a narrow bridge called the Caminito del Rey, somewhere near Malaga or Marbella. I don't know exactly where, probably between the two. And this is a really scary walkway, or used to be. People died walking this thing. It was like a little narrow footpath between these two hydroelectric dams, and people would try to go across and they'd fall into their deaths. But now the country of Spain has made it into they've made it an elevated walkway that's safe to travel. So we're going to do that. And while I'm there, there's a fossil related earth cache where you, as you're walking the walkway, you have to find a fossil in the cliff wall. So that's one thing I'll be doing while I'm over there, aside from eating a lot of good food and drinking a lot of good beer again.
Yeah, you told some great stories, by the way, about that. So, which I'll mention real quick, and then Jesse's got another question for you. But I'll put it at this point because I want people to, and not because it's our podcast, but I want people who have not listened to show 27. Make a note. Show 27. It was back on December 11th of 2016. Show 27 with Keith. Go back and listen or watch, whatever you prefer. Go back and listen and watch that episode because I found it incredibly fascinating, Keith, to hear the stories. And I made Keith tell I tell a little bit about this. So we were at the Texas Mega together and sitting down and Susan was there too, my wife. And so having a good time, just kind of catching up because it was the first time Keith and I had met in person. So, and I had to bend his ear again and tell the stories about Spain and walking the Camino because it's amazing, Keith, the what you learned or what you experienced doing that. So, show 27, go back, listen to that, listen to Keith's stories. We don't have time tonight to go through all of them again, which was, but fascinating. I know you love that area, and it was for you. It was obviously a great experience because you're able to go back. You met some great people, and if people do want to walk it, is there anything you'd want to mention to people about preparing for something like that? Or?
Prepare. The biggest thing you do is walk prior to going. I thought because I wasn't in particularly bad shape, I played tennis. I thought I'd be okay. And what happens is if you walk day in, day out if you walk 7 or 8 hours a day, your feet take a pounding. Blisters form. You have to get used to that repeated footfall. And it doesn't matter. And then on top of that, you get grades up and down. But the main thing is you have to toughen your feet up for continuous hour after hour walking. And that doesn't happen easily. You have to prepare before you make the trip. I was lucky. My feet survived relatively well, but my knees were killing me by the time on the first day, it was very difficult. So don't think, if you watch the movie The Way, it seems like a very romantic thing to do to go walk the Camino de Santiago, but they cut out all the parts where those people were poking needles through the blisters in their feet.
Right.
And the hour after hour after hour of hiking along a dusty field, with gnats in your face, and it's not all glamour. It's hard work and it's fun and it's rewarding, but it's not. There's a lot of parts that are extremely, extremely difficult, and especially if you're not prepared.
Right, and the views are tremendous. I love all the photos you took and shared.
Unbelievable, yes,
just unbelievable. And following. You got to be careful though, because you told about how you got off the path one time. But for the most part, they're all it's all marked fairly well.
Yes.
Okay, and then Jesse, that kind of leads, I guess, into your.
Yeah. So you mentioned a fossil-related Earth cache, but there's also a virtual in that area too, isn't there?
Yeah, I think you're talking about the one that I placed myself after
maybe
Groundspeak awarded me the rare opportunity to do so. That was wonderful. Yeah, I was not expecting that to happen. I guess nobody who received one of those virtual cache awards, I don't know how else you put it, but was probably expecting it. But I didn't know what to do with mine. I sat on it for quite a while. It probably took me several months before I finally decided what to do with it. And what I did was I placed it on the Camino de Santiago. there's a point on the path where I'm not sure exactly what point it is, probably midway through. I think it's the highest point on the Camino, where you've hiked to the highest elevation. There's a cross on top of something that looks like a telephone pole, and at the base of it, there's an enormous amount of rocks, and there's these pebbles and stones that the pilgrims carry with them, and they'll write a little message on the stone, and leave it at this monument. And it's a very, you get there and you just see this enormous pile of stones. And all these little things that have been left behind at this monument, and it's very moving. You get there and you feel like you're going to cry just looking at it from the sheer knowledge that so many people have been there before you, or you might be crying because your feet hurt. But the or it's freezing rain.
Right.
There are lots of reasons to cry on the Camino de Santiago, but that's where I place my virtual. And so now I have people hiking the Camino who are stopping at that monument and taking their photo.
That's awesome.
One thing that I wasn't expecting, a few people found it. Some of the first people that found it weren't actually hiking at that time. They posted photos from like 2004 or something when they visited the monument. I didn't put any specifications like that. I wasn't really expecting that to happen, but I thought, well, no harm, no foul. They were there, Yeah. But anyway, I was really thrilled that I was able to do that. And there were several places along the Camino I considered also, because there's a lot of wonderful monuments to visit along the way.
Very cool.
That is very cool.
So we're going to get into sort of what's new with the magazine, but but first we get into that. I got another question from current, what you currently are doing. Cause again, I love it so much. And, Jesse and I both kind of the same perspective on it. It's like, I'm going to savor this because again, it's going to be a little while before I get another one, which is fine, because I know it takes a lot of work to put out to get a magazine put together and all that. But one of the things that I got one time, because I noticed you had a thing in the magazine, I think you got it pretty much right at the beginning of, it's in the beginning of this one. I noticed one time in one of them that you had a thing about thanking people for their, let me try and get this where I fix this. All right. Thanking people for their support right here. And so I thought, cool. Well, I'm definitely going to try to be a FTF Magazine evangelist and let somebody know about the magazine. Of course, and they subscribed. I think it was Sydney too, who was my subscriber for that. And so, Keith, you sent me this, which is the bronze version. I love your path tags. We'll get into that here in a minute. But so I got the bronze version. So can you kind of explain to me or explain to everyone real quick about getting the bronze, and there's a silver and a gold, is that correct, of the little FTF Magazine happy face guy?
Exactly. Basically, it's just a promo for the magazine. I like to try to give something back to the readers, especially the ones that actually go out and try to spread the word, because that's the best kind of marketing you can get when somebody says, hey, I love this magazine, you should subscribe to it. So I decided to reward those people by creating a series of path tags. The bronze level, which Gary got, was for referring one person. And you don't even necessarily have to refer the person. If the person says that you told them about the magazine when they sign up, I'll send one of those coins or one of those tags to you. So the way it works is you refer one subscriber and you get a bronze tag. You subscribe. You refer two more subscribers for 3 in total, and you'll receive a silver tag. And if you refer an additional 2 subscribers, for a total of 5, you receive the gold tag. I don't know what I do what I would do for anybody who did more than that, but that's so there have been many people that went beyond 5.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I love that. So people get out, especially those that obviously by now people should have already subscribed. I mean, I think we've convinced people, right, Jesse?
Tons of people in the chat room are already subscribers.
Right.
Yeah, in case anybody in the chat room or listening is not, just for fun, mention Geocache Talk. We're
Right.
not trying to get any coins out. We're already partners with you, right? So we're not trying to get any pat tags out of it. But I hope some of our people get into it. And well, it's just what we were talking about before the show. And I tell this every time we talk about, the magazine or whatever, but it's like when you first find out about geocaching, you're happy and also mad because nobody already told you about it. Like, why my friends don't really like me? Why didn't they tell me about it? It's like a whole part of the game. I mean, it's like a big addition to the game. It's our own magazine for us as geocachers. And you're like, I've been at this game for a long time. Why was people not telling me about this ahead of time? And it's not a secret like geocaching is supposed to be. So why doesn't everybody know about it? And why doesn't everybody, I know not everybody can, but why doesn't everybody subscribe to it? It's the magazine. I don't get it.
And I'd like to add that what I think people should like about the magazine is it's the only magazine that you can put your own stories into.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. I
don't hire professional writers to do this magazine. It's stories sent in by the readers. And I publish everybody's milestone. So if you have a milestone coming up and it's number 200 or number 800 or 1,000 or 15,000, you can send a photo in and it will, I guarantee you, it will appear in the magazine. So to me, that's the thing I, like about the magazine. If I want to publish my own article in there, I do so. But that's by no means, I'm not the only one who can do that. Anybody can do that. So if you like, if you've been listening and you've just worked up a great geocache that you're real proud of and want to teach people how to build it, this is an opportunity. Take some photos, send in the story, how you made it, and you'll get published.
And that's what's cool about it too, is it is a shared resource. You get to see your own stories, you get to share your own stuff. And geocaching, even though there's millions of geocachers now, I don't even know what the numbers are of active geocachers and even how they measure it. There's tons of them out there. It's really still a small community. So you really get to share a lot of the same experiences, and it's funny reading other people's stories in there because you're like, yeah, I did that same dumb thing. So it's great.
And a lot of times the people writing the stories, which is interesting too.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love when I see somebody I know and it's like, oh, I didn't know, so then I get to bust them about it. Like, so you're going to be an FTF magazine. You didn't tell anybody. You just want to be, you're just going to like, yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to wait till they see it. So, but you got different things. So there's this one. I can do it well. It came out recently because I noticed you do, which I think is really cool, is you'll sort of come up with like a topic and you'll send out a note and said, hey, this time we're going to do, I want people to send in a note about like this one, which was if I can read it while I'm showing it, about what would you do for a smiley, and you got some great stories. But there's one with Doug McCrae, who we just had on the show a couple weeks ago, jumping into the Antarctic. But
yeah.
So that's his photo of him with his penguin swim trunks on, getting into the 30 we talked about 2 weeks ago, with his getting in the 32-degree water. And so he sent in the photo, and she printed it because that's what people do. So
exactly,
and so it's fascinating too. I love the way you come up with creative things to either ask people about. Oh, here's one. Joshua's geocaching vloggers and all the vlogger, the network is now really fired up and going strong. I also love, while we're talking about this, you do find great ads. This is one for the Baytown, which is Susan and I have talked about going down and doing the Baytown
Geotour, yeah.
Geotour. So there's it's not just it's informative in ways that
you'll also find that the ads are about geocaching. They're not an ad for
hand cream or something. Yeah.
Right. No, they're all So I love the antique art, the American Pickers. There's a story about the antique archaeology cache that it's in the Nash. I didn't know about it until that.
Oddly enough, one of my favorite features in there, and we were talking about it before the show too, was besides the cartoons. Yes, I love the
Jesse loves the cartoons, man.
I'm a comic strip nerd. I love it.
Loves them.
Always loved it. But is oddly enough, which I don't even know how to explain why I like it so much, but the milestones. I like the milestones in there, and I know that's just everybody sending their own stories, but I really think that's cool that
they're done well, though.
you send in the milestones, and they're going to be in there.
Yeah.
And people, and a lot of times, like that picture is perfect. It'll be like families, and they're really happy, and they've printed out the little signs or whatever, and they've planned this stuff out, and that's kind of other than travel, that's the best of geocaching, the family part of it, where you really get excited about something, and it's.
I love that photo too. That's why I those kids just look so happy, and they look like such a good time. It's just an adorable photo.
And nowadays with iPads and iPods and just all the electronic games and devices that are really fun to play and do and everything else, if you can get kids out playing and doing family stuff, you've got something. So that's other than travel, that's awesome. I read that. That's the first part I turn to every time is the milestones. I don't know why. I just like it. I think that's one of the neatest parts of the magazine.
So a couple things I want to ask you about before we get into the new stuff again. We're kind of still focused on that for a moment, and that is, when did you start doing this version? Which this is just one of them, but how did you get into doing the special editions, Keith? I'm showing. That's what I'm showing right now to folks in the live. Mm-hmm.
At one point, I wanted to make the magazine small enough to fit in an ammo can, so I kind of tossed that idea around for a while. Mm-hmm. But to me, that makes the magazine not quite as special. It's not a real magazine if it's like a little half-size thing. So I ditched that idea, but then I retained the idea, or I don't know. I honestly don't know exactly how that started for sure.
Sure.
But basically, we started making it into like a little mini edition event program for major events. Right. So we did the little half-sized issue for Geo Woodstock or Geo Coin Fest and that sort of thing. And it works out well because I can get them printed up pretty cheaply. And it's a good advertising for me at the major events.
Right.
And it's good. It's good for the event people because they have somebody who can professionally generate their program for their event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's got the schedule in it. It's got the map. I mean, just for people to know, there's the map for the so that's a great idea. Keep going.
I'm on the planning committee for all the major events now because I get involved in this little production of the event program. And it doesn't really make me any money or anything like that. I've recently started selling ads in the program separately, but I just reserved like 2 pages to do that.
Right.
But for the most part, even the event organizers usually recoup their costs through advertising and the little advertisers that they get at their end that they place in that little mini edition. I just call it a special edition.
And there's even stories, that you even put. I mean, it's not just the map, the sponsors, done. You actually it's actually like a mini magazine. It's got stories in it. Some crazy guy wrote this one. I don't know who did that story, but
I don't know who would have done that one.
I don't know who's that story. Jesse Lunsford. Not sure who that guy is, but I just skipped that story right over the.
That story was full of errors. I had to.
I know that guy was. I think he was drunk when he wrote that story. You can't trust that guy.
No, Jesse's got a story in that one version, so I had to bust him. But love the story. Like you said, you make it. It really is a mini magazine. It's got stories. It's got the information. It's got all that cool stuff in it. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And that was, and I can tell you from, being part of that Geo Woodstock 14 or the mega that we put on out here in Denver, people loved that. They talked about that, that little magazine in the, the packet that they got or whatever else, as they loved that. They were, they might've complained about a couple other things, but they loved that part of it. So, I didn't hear a single negative thing, and I heard tons of positive things about, this is just, they didn't expect to get what they got. So I don't know, it's been done a few times at other megas now and stuff, but that was one thing that people really got a hold of.
I'm glad they enjoyed it.
Now a couple other quick notes I want to make. My first path tag ever, Keith, was this one right here, which was Bigfoot.
Awesome.
Focus. I know, I loved it, and so that was really my first exposure to path tags was these cryptos, you
Yeah.
know, and so and you're still doing the cryptozoology series.
Yeah, I give those out free to new subscribers. They're part of the little swag pack.
Yeah.
And I say I give them out free. Technically, it's pathtags.com that gives them out free. They send me 1,000 of these things to hand out in return for their the advertising in the back of the magazine.
Perfect.
And so it's been a real good partnership with them in terms of putting swag into the little packs to send out to subscribers. And that's something, you know, when I send a little swag pack out, it's it benefits me, but if there's anybody out there who has a geo store or something that wants to send me a little sticker, something very lightweight to include in the swag pack, it benefits both of us. You can get I started putting the pathtags.com's little stickers in the pack as well, just because it's you know, it's something people like getting that sort of thing, and it gives me a way to give back to the people that are partnering with me and promoting the magazine. But yeah, that cryptozoology series is up to about 21, 22 tags now. I'm not sure.
That's awesome.
And it's just never ending because there's a never ending supply of these cryptids.
There are.
There's no telling how many I'll end up doing in the long run.
And I watch Joshua Gates does the it's not his Expedition Unknown, it's his other show that he does where he talks they go try to find a lot of the cryptozoology people. And so like every time I see one, I'm like, oh, I need to send a note to Keith because it's like it's another one, you know. Of course, so you've got a lot of those going. And I love those. I also love this series. I don't know if this series is even still around, but I think I bought as many of them as I could. And that is the Geo Nemesis series. This is the chigger, which is very, very much in play here in Texas. Is the chigger? Absolutely. We get, and a lot of people don't know what even a chigger. You know, people are like, chiggers. I mean, what the heck are these? It's like, it's your worst nightmare in Texas.
They're terrible creatures.
Horrible.
They are terrible because you can't see them, and they get on you. And oh my gosh, they're terrible. I mean, ticks are terrible. But a tick you can usually see. Yeah. Chiggers you can't see them. And but I loved your little series, the Geo Nemesis series.
Yeah, one technically is still alive. I just haven't done one in a while. So maybe coming up.
So question for you. There's the two versions. There's the physical copy and there's the digital version, right?
Right.
Are the physical copies available everywhere, or is there limitations to that?
Well, the Postal Service recently shut down my ability to send printed copies of the magazine overseas. They changed the regulations to where sending a letter-size package now it can only contain documents. So I can't send a magazine anymore that way. So now I have to send it as a package. And that not only does that double or triple the price of sending an individual magazine overseas, but it's odd because I can send one magazine cost me $15.
Oh, geez.
And to send 6 magazines cost me 20 or 20 something. So
oh my gosh.
If I could just send them all at one time, I could make it work. But that's just not the way it works. So what I've had to do internationally is just offer the magazine digitally. There's also a digital version that's on iTunes. That version I've had some problems with recently, so it's not completely up to date at the moment. But usually it's just a matter of me loading the magazine up and getting it up into that system. That system, I can't really tell how well it's doing. I don't look at it very often. But I've got a certain number of subscribers via that route, and I've got a certain number of international and a certain number of print. So it all adds up over in the end. But yeah, so basically 2 different ways, digital or PDF. I'm sorry, digital or print, but the print is only now available in the United States.
That makes sense. A lot of the people in the chat room are international, and they said they get the digital version. So
yeah, it's frustrating. I hate that I had to do that, but there was just no way to make it work.
Well, that's out of your control for the time being anyway. So
You you tried something and had a little bit of an issue with it, but I applaud your attempt at this. But what is where does it sit right now? And that is, you're including a hidden puzzle in the latest issue of the magazine, and you are what all happened with that, and where does that sit right now?
It's a little bit difficult to explain without giving the puzzle away.
That's okay. But you had a problem.
The problem is, if anybody out there is listening and they've been scanning their print copy to try to find out what that puzzle is, right, they would probably find components of it, but not the complete puzzle, because there was a print issue to where the levels of colors were out of balance. And I have no idea how it happened, because the proof that the printer sent me, it was all there. I scanned through it and made sure it was there. When it came out off the press, the balances were not right. And so part of my puzzle simply disappeared on the print version of the magazine. At that point, I decided to send out a PDF to everybody. So I sent an email where people could either download it or something. And so that if they want to try to solve that puzzle, they can at least use the PDF to do so. You'll never solve it using the print edition unless there's some issues where the color balance was right. I don't know for sure. There's no way for me to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the puzzle itself was pretty hard. You had to really, I've only had probably 4 or 5 people actually solve it.
Oh, wow.
And it's an idea that if I do it again, I'm going to let the printer know what I'm doing. So
right.
They know to make sure nothing goes wrong, especially if I use that same method or something similar to it. Right. But I plan to do something like this in every issue now. So you can look forward to having some kind of puzzle. In some cases, it'll be more obvious. It might be an image or something, and this is the puzzle. Right. It may not just be completely hidden as it was in this issue. So we're going to experiment with that and see how it goes.
That's cool, though. I like the. I mean, that's a great idea to include not just Spartacus, but you've now got this other item. So it really becomes interactive. Well, like you said, and something I think we need to emphasize to folks is that it is a very interactive magazine. There's so much to do or to learn or to be a part of. And then you, like you said, you can be a part. I know, like I said, I got Sydney to subscribe, and then she sent an article in, and she got, she's published. So, she got excited about being a part of it.
Right.
Jesse's been, he's subscribed and has been part of it. So people need to, to jump in and be a part of it as well.
So you're already a part of the community, so you might as well share your stories, right?
Exactly. Right.
Absolutely.
And get to know the rest of the community.
Yeah, let other people know too. That's for sure. So you're now creating geocoins. And so, there's something that we talked about before. And, when you were creating the geocoin, you created this one for Cashly, which I really love.
Oh yeah.
Showing the Cashly coin. I love it. It's just a fascinating, so well done, nice, thick, solid coin.
At one point, that was my favorite coin.
Right. Until this one came along.
Yes.
Which is the one for our show, which is just it really is. It's a great looking coin. The back of it is incredible as well. There's the back of it. So, you did a great job of setting this thing up. And like I said, it's thick. When we saw this one, we thought, man, Jess and I talked about it, and we were like, in Sydney at the time, we were like, we've got to do, I think this is our pattern for a great coin. And when you came out with this one, which had all our colors on it, which I always joked about, Keith, I would do this during the show.
Yeah.
It's like, I'd put this right in front of our design, and it would be like, it's perfect. It's exactly the coin, with the logo in the background. It's right there.
It's perfect.
So it is. And so we've had so many great comments about this. And so I asked Keith before the show that we could talk about this. So if you're interested in having a quality coin made that is got, like I said, it's incredible. How would they contact you, Keith, to start the process of maybe getting a coin made?
Yeah. Regular old email, ftfguide@ftfgeocacher.com is all you really need to do.
Okay, get the process going.
I can get somebody a quote. And when I was in Belgium, I mentioned a while ago when we were talking before the show, I had a gentleman come up to me and ask me to do a coin for a European challenge. So I'm getting in contact with him to get him a quote for how to do that, because he didn't know how to make his own coin, but he had this idea for a challenge coin that he wanted to do. And it kind of surprised me because he just approached me out of the blue. I wasn't saying anything about, hey, I'm a geocoin designer or anything like that. Yeah, that's something I'm definitely interested in doing for anybody out there that needs help with it.
Awesome. Very cool. So we also want to talk about, we're going to do the giveaway here in a little bit. We haven't forgot about that. We're going to ask a question live, but we're going to give away a different kind of coin. And this one came up, oh gosh, how many years have you had the art coin around? Only very short time, right, Keith?
Well, I did one version of it about 2 years ago, I think. And it was a lot of fun. Basically, it's a coin. It's a pretty unique coin because it's hard. It was hard to have made because when you're trying to tell a coin designer, or no, a coin manufacturer, that you want one side of the coin to be completely blank, and they keep asking, "What?"
Yeah, blank. No. What do you mean blank?
This coin looks like nothing when I get it from the factory. It's got a completely blank white face. Right. And then we use little Sharpie markers to basically put a design on the coin. So the coin's very unique. When you're finished, every one's going to just by definition be completely different. If someone has artistic talent, they can order a coin blank and do their own little design, or pay a little more. And I basically sit down and do designs on the coins and then sell them. I think it was like, I think my price right now is $19.95 or something like that. Right. So, but I just kind of sketch them out in my free time, and they're pretty unique. I'm pretty proud of that idea.
It is a great idea. So it's still live, right? People can still purchase.
And they can still purchase blank ones, and they can still request ones with artwork. What I do basically is I usually give the people a couple of different designs to choose from. So I'll do a batch of them, and then I'll show them. I'll send them a picture of the coins, and they'll say, "Oh, I like the one with the pink flowers."
Right.
So I'll ship them that one, and then the next person gets whatever coins are left over, and I keep making them as I go along.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Something else that people can do is the cryptos. You're still just like anything else about the magazine. If you have a crypto that hasn't been done yet, you're willing to entertain other people's ideas of what might be a good crypto.
Yeah, definitely. I've got I think the Wendigo. I don't remember who suggested that, but that's the latest one, and it came from a reader. Someone suggested unicorns, which I hadn't really thought of as a cryptid, but I guess it is in a way. So I might do a unicorn next. I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
Cool.
We'll see. I do need to create a new one pretty soon because I'm getting low on the other ones. Okay,
very cool. And those are all can be purchased. Now, can people, and this all would be on ftfgeocacher.com, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you still have some old copies of the magazine that can be purchased still? Or you?
Yeah, I think I have the last 2 years worth of magazines that you can purchase directly through my store. And if you want older issues than that, you can go to Space Coast Geocacher. And they have all my older issues. Okay. And they would love to sell you some of those older issues. They've got boxes and boxes of them.
You'd be thrilled, right? Well, that's good.
Yes.
That's good. One question, and now Jesse, you might have some more questions from the chat room. I had one from Electric Water Boy, and he was asking about Steve and Nancy.
Yes.
How are they? Are they okay? Everything fine with Nancy? How are Steve and Nancy from Caching with Nancy in?
Is there some question about?
I don't know. That's good.
I'm not aware of any problem with Steve and Nancy. They send me things all the time.
Yeah, which is great. They're in almost everyone. So, Tom, you'll have to comment more in the chat room on that. But anyway, Jesse, do you have some more?
Yeah. So since we have time for it, but I know we could talk all night long about this, and I've already got about 5 new ideas for shows just coming from this. One from the magazine I was reading about the health score. You had an article about that recently, and that's come up, and we got a whole nother show about that. I can't even mention it now because we'll be here for another hour.
Yeah.
And then people were asking about custom coins. Since you brought that up, they want us. We can do a show about that, and people really get into that. So there's a bunch of things, but last week we had an impromptu show because we had some technical difficulties on what we're doing, and we got into and it was so much that we even had to split it into another show. So we were talking about our favorite cache of each type, and one of the hardest ones actually for us to pick out was traditional. Do you have a favorite traditional cache that you found in years?
Nothing in the traditional sense comes up. Well, I take it back. I'll say one I found just recently. I found a cache at a castle last week while I was in Belgium. There was nothing special about the cache, but I was at a castle. It was awesome.
Well, sometimes that's it. That's the experience, right? It's not even the cache.
Exactly. If a traditional cache takes you to a virtual like location, that you would normally might only be able to do a virtual cache at, or that you would normally want to put a virtual cache at, just put a regular cache there. And that was a good example. I mean, that was awesome. Even though the cache itself was nothing special.
That's really one of my top favorites ever. Was one called the Queen's Staircase, and it was traditional. It's gone because I don't think they're supposed to have it there in the first place. But
cool.
It was the same thing, right? You would expect it to be a virtual location because it was like a history lesson, and it was awesome. We found it down in Jamaica. It was great. And
I know of that one. Someone wrote about that in the magazine. I think Evlev wrote about that.
Yeah, and it was awesome. It was it's gone now, unfortunately, but I think we actually put some trackables in it and they immediately disappeared. But it's one of our favorite ones that we've ever been to as far as the family goes, and it was great. But it's the same thing. That's what I thought too. I was like, oh, I wish they would at least put it virtual. I'm thinking now. Wait,
now I'm thinking.
A minute.
Not a bad idea.
Maybe there should be a virtual there, but
exactly.
That's cool. Yeah, and that's harder than it sounds to ask you what your favorite traditional cache is. If you're able to ask, multi or virtual, people can generally come up with that, but that is actually a harder question than it seems like it is.
Yeah, definitely.
It is. A lot of people last week too sent us emails, Jesse, about their favorites are always tend to be gadget caches or traditional, but
oh yeah,
it kind of isn't a traditional. I mean, but anyway, that's
kind of
show.
A filled puzzle.
Yeah,
we kind of asked about that on Instagram this week, and it was, would it be a different attribute or whatever else? And there was a lot of split opinion on it, but right now it's traditional, so it could be a puzzle also or multi or whatever, but. It's really harder than it seems. It's kind of a tricky question.
Yeah, it should be like you said. I think it should have a special attribute just to help everybody out, so they know what they're going to get into. But that's another show.
But I think we're going to start ambushing all future guests with asking them what's their favorite traditional cache ever.
Favorite traditional. We get a lot of cool stories though. That's for sure. So the thing, Electric Waterboy came back with. He just said that he didn't know if there was a medical issue with either of them or if they'd sort of stopped. But you're saying that Steve and Nancy are still sending in a lot of cool stuff.
Absolutely, I got something from them today. They are prolific contributors.
They are. Electric Waterboy, them. Podcaster gives you great material. Sunny and Sandy are great. We're big fans of theirs, and so I love seeing good stuff. So, all right. So we're going to ask our question here in the giveaway. So Jesse, if you want to keep a good close eye.
So this is a live giveaway then.
Live giveaway. Sometimes we do others. We're we're giving some sorry to the audio listeners. I know you're out there. We really appreciate you guys. And we did a audio giveaway last week or 2 weeks ago with Doug. So I'm not going to forget you. We're going to definitely have more audio listener giveaways, but tonight's is going to be live. So we're going to kind of go back and forth. So this one's live. And the question is, and
Well,
so
hold on. You get ahead of yourself every time. What's the prize?
the prize. Yeah, let's show the prize. Keith has. Do you have the prize handy, Keith? Or
Oh yeah, okay. It is an art coin, as we were just talking about.
let's talk about the art coins. Yeah,
And it's one I did for. It's kind of a new idea for me to do an art coin that's related to an event. So I thought, well, let's try the Woodstock event. So I went and looked at the Woodstock website, and I noticed on the logo there was a little flying pig, which I thought was really cute. So I ended up doing a little flying pig.
Oh man, that's so cool looking. Yes,
you see your hand to kind of fade.
Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, that's perfect.
Flying pig with Geo Woodstock here.
Very cool.
So that's very awesome. Coin you're trying for.
That's the one you're going to try for here in the questions. So, all right, here we go. Jesse, first person to answer correct. The question is, what is the name of Keith's boat? We talked about it early on in the hurricane. What's the name of Keith's boat? Well, it's he and his wife's.
It's going to take a second. No answers yet.
Yep. It's a 73-ton.
This is actually a harder one than
73 tons? Yeah.
Oh. IB Geocaching was the first one to get it in.
You got it right?
Yep.
Oh, Pete.
Oh, everybody got. Oh, man.
They're starting to flow
There's
now.
A lot of answers now, yeah.
So
I like Pathfinder. He's just guessing. He goes, Camino de Santiago.
He's trying whatever he can. So.
We got SS Minnow also. No, those are not correct, but good guesses.
This one survived further. So Peter,
IB Geocaching was the first one to get it.
First one to get it. Wow. I mean, he's fired up for that. So anyway, I'll get you the info if you don't have Peter's info from IB Geocaching. And we give it away to whoever wins, and that's who the winner is. So that's awesome. All right. So we'll go kind of around the room, as it were. Keith, I'll let you go last. So Jesse, I'm going to put you on the spot. Any final thoughts or questions for Keith before we wrap up?
Well, I always have final thoughts on it, but
I know. Well, I know you have thoughts, but
yeah, no. So I love the magazine, and I tell everybody I know about it, and it still shocks me today. Just like podcasts, right? Before I got involved in podcasts, I listened to podcasts, and I was always shocked when other cachers who I look up to as like the experienced cachers, I'd mention something like, "Hey, I heard this on the podcast," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I talking about?" So the same thing happens now when I'm like, "Yeah, I was reading, FTF." And I saw this article and I want to go check this out. And they're like, "What are you talking about? You're reading FTF." And I was like, "The magazine, what do you mean?" I'm like, "Man, haven't you been in geocaching for a while? What is wrong with you?" And some people know about it and either had a subscription or are going to renew it and stuff like that. But then others that haven't heard about it, I'm like, how do you not know about the magazine? This is our obsession. This is our hobby. This is what we do. How do you not know that there's a magazine, right? How do you not check out every medium that's associated with what you do? And I would just tell everybody, not only, if you're in the US and you can get the physical copy, get the physical copy because it's great. If you're international and you get the digital copy, I did that for a while too, and I loved it. I'd read through it and everything. And apparently it gives you an advantage on solving puzzles. But
yeah, you're right.
At least for this first time, right? But get the magazine, you'll love it. Check it out, and plus you get coins and all the other stuff and the interactive junk. But it is the magazine. It's once you start subscribing, you won't not have it because you'll feel like you're missing a part of the news. Just like hopefully listen to podcasts and everything else. It's part of the game that we do, and it is the magazine. So I just get out there, check it out, borrow a friend's copy, download one online, do whatever you got to do. Get you a copy, and you'll be hooked on it pretty much immediately after that.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. And my final thoughts were just that there's a lot more to it than I think people who don't subscribe. I hope we got that. I hope we got that conveyed tonight. That's how I got into path tags I subscribed to the magazine, not even knowing anything about path tags or wanting a path tag. And I get this thing in the mail, as part of the swag pack when I first subscribed. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome! I just got a free gift for subscribing to this magazine, and it's like, wow, are there more of these? So I got out there like, oh, I can buy these things. They're cheap as heck, It's like I'm gonna buy more of these things. It's awesome. So that's how I got even started on that whole series of them. And the Geo Nemesis came along and all that. But this is the one I want to finish with talking about from my perspective, and that is the Geo Evangelist one. If you're a subscriber, and I think a lot of people that they're listening to us tonight, or listening to us later on, are great fans, are great patrons, who are around the world. We have people listening all over. I mean, we get fan mail from Switzerland or Norway or all over Europe or Australia. We got all our fans in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Great Britain. We get fan mail from all over because we've been fortunate enough to be able to sort of build up an audience of folks around the world who, like you said, Jesse, who love our sport, love our obsession of this, and love what we kind of are able to provide them entertainment wise. But you can get a cool path tag if you can at least tell one person about it. So that's my charge to you out there, is at least tell one person to subscribe. You don't have to go for the silver or gold. You can. I really want people to get the silver and gold version of the FTF coin with the little happy face, the little smiley, because you've provided somebody for it. But tell somebody about it, and that's what I really want people to do, is take a moment this week and tell a friend that geocaches that you know of. Send them a note, send them a Facebook message, send them an email, do whatever you need to do, and just let's get some more subscribers for Keith. Let's keep him so busy he doesn't know what to think right now. So
there you go.
Well, they'll be thankful, right? Like I can't imagine, like, if my friends were sitting around and tell them, they will be happy that you told them about it because they didn't realize. And I'm still mad at some of my friends for not telling me earlier. I'm like,
exactly.
Were you trying to hide this from me so I can't beat you to the cache? I won't get the inside information. What's going on here? There's a conspiracy going on. Tell your friends about it. They will be super happy about it. So
yeah. So Keith, what are some of your final thoughts tonight?
Well, first, thanks you guys for having me on and all your kind words and your evangelism. That's awesome. I appreciate it. I don't know if you heard, but my phone's been binging a couple of times, and it was my son. He sent me a text message, and it says, "The Willie." So, anyway.
He's trying to guess. That's awesome.
He wants the coin.
So he's listening. He's watching the show. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate what you guys do, and it's always fun to be on and talk about geocaching. It's really strange. We're so we're such obsessive compulsives when it comes to this hobby, and it's good to be among like-minded folk.
Yes, very much so. And if you're coming to Geo Woodstock in Cincinnati, Gigastock, as I've been calling it lately, the plan, at least, like I said, unless the creek, hopefully no more hurricanes come through before now and then, but you'll plan to be there, and so we want people to come say hi to you.
I'll be there. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So definitely go by and see Keith. Tell him you heard about your magazine through Geocache Talk. I think Keith would get a kick out of that if he heard that.
Absolutely.
So, and you'll have those little special editions, right? Is what we're hoping.
Yes, I'm working on one right now for Geo Woodstock. Okay,
awesome. That's perfect. So, all right. Well, coming up on the show, show 95, Jesse and I are going to have on Nathan Lewis, and we talked about recently about his county trip, and he gave us a lot of good info already in the show notes. So we're excited about next week's show, about his trip, all the states he went through, all the counties he stopped in, Put a lot of that on Facebook, which was kind of interesting to follow a little, and he's going to tell us about how he planned to do the whole thing and what went right, what went wrong, and just about the whole trip. He's going to give us the whole storyline about Nathan Lewis and his wife going on that trip. And then in 2 weeks, we go international. Geo Paul, he lives near London, is going to be back with us across the pond again, and special time for that because again it's live, and so he's going to be live in London. So it's a 3 p.m. show, so it'll be 9 p.m. his time, 3 p.m. our time. So it's an earlier show. But we want you to come by, ask your questions of Geo Paul. We just have a great time. We love all our international listeners, and it's fun having him on. Give us a perspective of the UK and different things he's been involved with of late, and his vlog, and it's just a fun time with Geo Paul. And then in 3 weeks, we've got something very unique, I think, and that is a show 97 called "Do You Know Your Way to Cincinnati?" And we're going to feature geocaches from different directions going to Cincinnati, because that's going to be later that month. And so everybody's working on this. The whole GeoTalk network is working on it. Jesse's coming up with his, even though he's not good to go. I've got my route. Sodak Zach's working on his, and even Angie's going to be working on hers, even though she's not be able to make it either. So, but we're all going to kind of come up with this list of caches that we want to find, or if we were going, we would want to find on the trip to Cincinnati and so we're doing that show in 3 weeks. And if you have a favorite, send one to geocachetalk@gmail.com, and we might include that in the show. So, folks, again, we hope you enjoy the show tonight. Please email us your comments at geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at geocachetalk, or mine's at Gary Slinkard. Also, we're on Instagram quite a bit now, Geocache Talk, all one word. And, of course, Jesse's with Memphis Mafia. They've been big on Instagram, which I'm really appreciative that Jesse's does his, and also with Angie taking care of ours for the network. And so very excited about that. And, of course, Facebook is facebook.com/Geocache Talk if you'd like to join our little group there. Show can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, as well as the Geocache Talk website. I just updated that today. So if you want to listen to an old show at that point, you can listen to it from the website, or use any of the other favorite items out there as far as audio listening processes that you go through, iTunes or Stitcher and so forth. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button below. You can see and hear the show on a weekly basis, and tell your friends about the show. And until next week, don't just talk about geocaching. Go check out FTF Magazine, and go tell your friends about it right now. And then after that, go geocaching. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.